Hey, welcome in everybody to the first edition of Inside Edge Network's Thursday Topics. I am Eli Moon, but to the right of me, to the left of you, is Inside Edge Network's Chad Bryan. You can catch him on Illegal Formation with TK Dandridge. You can also see him as one of the hosts of the Inside Edge Network NFL Preview Show, which will be coming up this weekend. And I'm sure you'll see him across other things, including this show here across the network. But Chad Bryan to the right of me. Chad, how are we doing?
I'm good, man. Eli, how are you doing?
I am good, man. I tell you, it's been a day. And flu season's going around, so I'm starting to get nervous. Everybody around me is getting sick.
Yeah.
Nervous.
Yeah, we went through it already. We were down over Christmas, man. We were just kind of it happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm hoping that's it for the season and we're good. We get it done. It's over. It's not how these things usually work, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope for your sake that's it. For me, I'm hoping I don't run into it, Chad. Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm very excited. But not for that, but to talk to you here in good health and
Yes.
have a conversation here. Like I said, Thursday topics, new here on the Inside Edge Network. So thanks for joining me. I know you deal with two very, very well-spoken human beings in TK and Ryan, and I know I'm a little bit of an oddball, so we're gonna have fun here for this next hour.
I am as much of an oddball as well. We're all good, man. But yeah, thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate you. Yeah, it's great to be here, man.
Absolutely. Let's
fun.
get into it here. Let's get into it, right? We had some crazy news earlier this week. And I mean, if you lived under a rock or you're living under a rock and just came back out, welcome back. John Harbaugh, no longer the Baltimore Ravens head coach after 18 NFL seasons, Chad. Crazy. I mean, obviously the playoff disappointments with Lamar Jackson. You've had these moments where it just seems like John Harbaugh can't get it done and get back to the promised land. Was this the right call by the Ravens, first off?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes listen, these things happen in the NFL, right? We always say coaches are hired to be fired. I guess time will tell, but in other ways, we'll never really know if it was the right call. Maybe next year was that turning point. Maybe next year was the year where, Lamar Jackson finally stopped having some big drops, really, honestly, in the playoffs. I mean, Lamar Jackson's always played fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
It's been the drops that have kind of snuck up on him a little bit on the Ravens and on Harbaugh. I don't know. I mean, did they make the right call? It's hard to say because it's one of those hindsight is 2020. But again, like I said, we'll never really know. Maybe next year would have been the beginning of the Ravens 3-year Super Bowl trip dynasty. We don't know. You still have the Bills you have the Bills to deal with in the AFC, and I don't know if the Chiefs dynasty is. I don't know. You could say it's done because they didn't make the playoffs, but don't you feel like they'll be back next year? I mean, I don't know. It's really impossible for me to say. Sometimes you just move in another direction, and that's what happens.
Yeah, and that's obviously what the Ravens did. And now John Harbaugh seems to be the most interesting NFL head coaching candidate, right? I mean, he brings a ton of experience. You talked about the shortcomings, but obviously that Super Bowl back with Joe Flacco and that crazy run the Ravens went on. And there's obviously some experience there in terms of getting to the promised land, and a team's going to be interested in that. A clip, unfortunately, that I wasn't able to get loaded in time was CBS Sports was actually talking about a pairing between Chad Alexander, a general manager, and John Harbaugh, and saying, like, for Miami, this is the only way they can get it done, potentially. So that's what the conversation was. It was a very interesting piece from CBS. I'm curious, and that's the question I put up here, Chad. With John Harbaugh, right? Like, there's a lot of places he can go.
Yeah.
But where will John Harbaugh coach in 2026?
I've seen a lot of social media fodder. It's whatever, people having some fun on social media saying, the Browns are. Why are the Browns not mentioned John Harbaugh? Why have they not done this? Why have they not done that? Listen, it's very possible the call's already been put in, and the answer is no, right? Like, is there interest? I mean, yeah, I grew up in Toledo. I get it. Went to Miami of Ohio. He's an Ohio guy. He has said that, they grew up as Browns fans. Clearly, he didn't spend the last 18 years as a Browns fan. So you would think that recency would take over. I don't know. I mean, where does he end up? I don't know. It seems like, doesn't he feel he feels like a Giants guy or a Tennessee Titan? It's just one of the cities where you kind of feel like that blue collar kind of hard nosed approach, right? Like, it feels like that's where he fits in best.
Yeah.
to me, he's the more morally sound of the Harbaughs that we're dealing with in the NFL. So there's that as well. But yeah, I don't know. He feels like the Giants or the Titans feel like a natural fit. Maybe the Dolphins. I don't know. Not sure.
Yeah, it was funny talking about it earlier. I was talking with Papa Moon,
Hmm.
about John Harbaugh being gone in Baltimore, and he couldn't believe it. He was shocked. He's like, "No, you're pranking me, right? Ha ha." And I was like, "No, no, I'm serious." So we went over that and kind of had a discussion, and it's like, if you're John Harbaugh, right? You're in your early 60s. You don't have time for a rebuild. So if you're the Cleveland
Yeah.
Browns, like that is not happening here, right?
Yeah. No.
If you're the Dolphins, you're without Tyreek Hill more than likely. You have no Jalen, or excuse me, not Jalen Waddle, but no Tua Tagovailoa looking to be your starting quarterback. There's going to be a lot of questions there.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, immediately those two teams. Unfortunately, I'm a Browns fan, but they're probably out of the question. Dolphins,
Yeah.
except for the sunny weather, which is what Pop's conclusion came to. Pop Moon said, "I mean, it's sunny there," and I said, "Yeah,
Hey.
but they're not very good." Um, I think it's the Giants. It probably is the Giants. I mean, to be honest, the only thing getting in their way is they kept general manager Joe Schoen, and that's a problem because they've made every bad move for the most part since he's been GM. I mean, keeping
Yeah.
Daniel Jones as opposed to Saquon Barkley, and I mean, we
Yeah.
know how that went.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes those calls can be a little rough too, though. But listen, the one thing the Giants do have is a quarterback. I think Jackson Dart has solidified himself as. I mean, I don't want to say legit because anything can happen. I mean, we've seen guys come in and have a great rookie year, and CJ Stroud has struggled a little bit to follow up on his fantastic rookie season, right?
yep,
Baker Mayfield broke some records his rookie year and struggled for a couple of years until he kind of figured it out. It took him a while. Listen, they don't say that the quarterback position is the most important position in sports for no reason, right? It's really, really tough to play.
right.
So it can be there can be ebbs and flows. I mean, there's for sure ups and downs. But I mean, Jackson Dart has looked really good, and the Giants for being what that roster is, and to lose Cam Scatterby the way they did. I mean, that it's an emotional injury when it's first of all when it's that gruesome, and then he just seems like a guy everybody loves and rallies around anyway, right? I
Yeah,
mean, hopefully he'll
yeah,
be back and he'll be 100% or whatever. But I mean, they have there's some strength there on that roster to work with. I think when you talk about having a solidified guy who looks like he can be, he can play the part, at quarterback. I mean, that helps a ton. That advances those rebuild years. So the Giants may not be the contender that you want them to be right now, but I think they're probably the closest of the teams that seem like they're in a hole, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
No, no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, yeah, I mean, defensive side like Abdul Carter, obviously
Yeah,
Kayvon Thibodeau, they've nailed some really good defensive draft picks as well. So I
yeah,
mean, it's perfect for a guy like Harbaugh. I guess it's just a matter of, like I kind of talked about, is it a matter of does he need the right GM? Does he need his GM to be able to play ball? And
yeah,
then Miami does have that one, I guess playing card over anybody else's. Hey, we'll raise you one. We have a GM opening too. We can bring you both in.
yeah.
So we'll see there. I will say this: don't be surprised, and this is just my opinion. No
Mhm.
reports I'm hearing, but don't be surprised if we're not talking. If we're talking about an AFC North coach that's coaching right now in the playoffs in the same position John Harbaugh is right
Yeah,
now. I mean,
yeah,
Mike Tomlin. I mean, I know Houston. I get it. Like Houston is going into Pittsburgh, and they're supposed to be the wild card. I mean, Chad, am I crazy to think that Houston doesn't just walk into Pittsburgh and really beat them by 10 or more?
I think that's going to happen. I listen. Houston has probably the best defense in the league going right now. Of anybody that's still playing, anyway, they have the best defense. If CJ Stroud can get back to anywhere near, and he's been playing well the last few weeks, he's looked better. They've had some injury concerns on that offense or whatever, but yeah, I think with their defense, no, I don't think that's crazy at all. I think they go in and I really think they win maybe
Yeah.
by 10 or more. I don't think that's out of the question at all.
Now, let me ask you this, and I'm going to move on to one other news we had here when it comes to the NFL and coaches.
Yeah.
If Mike Tomlin, who we're talking about here for
Mhm.
Pittsburgh, if he does lose this game against Houston and he does become available, if you're an NFL franchise and they're both available, are you taking John Harbaugh or are you taking Mike Tomlin? They're
Wow.
both agreed. They both agreed, by the way, Chad, in this hypothetical, they both agreed you are their number one option. Who are you choosing?
So I'm just going to pretend I'm playing Madden then, because that's the only realistic situation I see that playing out. No, listen, first of all, before I answer that question, do you realize how close we were to having the entire AFC North coaching staff? I mean, we can still get 75% of it, but I mean, the Bengals deciding to keep Zach, that was bizarre in my opinion. I thought he was gone. I really thought for a minute all 4 coaches would be fired, because I wouldn't be surprised to see Pittsburgh lose in the first round again. But then on the other side of that, it sounds so ridiculous. Like, how nice to be so spoiled as a fan that you're tired of first round exits in the playoffs. Like, we're over here like, playoffs. Like, what does that even, like we've a couple of times. I mean, you got the playoff playbook. It's dusty, right? You break it out of the closet. I mean, there's an inch thick of dust on it. Man, what a spot to be in. But man, which one am I going to pick? I'm going to get back to the question. Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh? Wow. See, I don't know. They're both kind of they're players, coaches, but they're also they're both kind of those like that hard-nosed personality where behind the scenes they're not going to take anything from anybody, right?
Yeah.
You think about Tomlin's situation with the Rooneys. I don't really know what the Ravens ownership is like per se. I try to think about how it relates to us as Browns fans and dealing with the Haslams, as Jimmy Haslam can be Jimmy Haslam, right?
Yeah.
Either one of those guys, that's a 50-50. That's so hard. I guess I'm going to go Mike Tomlin. I feel like Mike Tomlin, maybe Pittsburgh Steelers fans would disagree with me, but I just feel like Tomlin has done a little bit more with a little bit less, if that makes sense, over the years.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, my only like reasoning is for Harbaugh. I would choose Harbaugh in this case. Is because he played, he played football at Miami, Ohio University. So
Okay.
Gotta give him, gotta keep him, in the home state. I mean,
That's fair. That's fair.
So,
yeah.
No, I mean, both great options, Chad. I mean, and like you said, it's kind of crazy. We're sitting here talking about woe is the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens, specifically the Steelers with 19 straight seasons, and they're still considering making a change. I mean, we had 6 up and down seasons of Kevin Stefanski. We covered it a ton here on the Inside Edge Network. If you haven't seen our coverage on Monday, breaking news, obviously. On Monday at that point, Kevin Stefanski fired as the Browns head coach. We covered it all day long. So go hear Chad's thoughts with TK and Ryan, and I'm talking to Rob and Kyle. And Kyle was not happy about Atlanta winning. That was a curveball that we weren't ready for on the show. But yeah, I mean, just crazy to think about 6 up and down seasons with Stefanski, and Browns fans. We're ready. We're like, that's it. We can't do any longer. So
yeah, we were all on the outside looking in with the axe in our hands, like we were ready to go. Yeah. And listen, nothing personal against Kevin Stefanski, but that also was a really, really fun day on the network. I mean, it was just a lot of fun to, the breaking news coverage and to kind of, scramble live to completely switch away. We're going to do a college football show that day, and to completely switch away from what we had planned to go into something else. It was a lot of fun. It was a big challenge, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah. I mean, like I said, nothing personal. I mean, Kevin seems like he's a fantastic dude, by all accounts. Great family guy. Probably a player's coach on the inside. I mean, I don't know. We didn't get much of a look into his personality with the press conferences. I mean, they were all pretty bland and Belichickian, dare I say?
Yeah.
Without all the W's.
Without all the W's, right.
Yeah. And there's a certain aspect of that was missing that made that dry delivery a little more palatable with Bill Belichick. But, I don't know. I mean, sad to see him go, I guess, for the human part of it, but I think it's good to move in a new direction as well.
Absolutely.
So here we are.
Yeah. And John Harbaugh, not the only one on the move. Obviously, today, we got some news. Miami Dolphins, they fire head coach Mike McDaniel after 4 seasons with the team. This was obviously, we were hearing rumors, just circling around social media and speculation that Mike McDaniel might be let go. Then he did a good job at the end of the year, so we're going to keep him. And they ultimately made the decision to fire him, Chad. Just unfortunate timing, I'd imagine, for Mike McDaniel, too, considering that Kevin Stefanski was already let go earlier this week. John Harbaugh let go earlier this week. There's some very interesting names already on the market, offensive coordinators that teams are already looking at. Yeah. I mean, just seems like Mike McDaniel might be like the guy without a prom date right now.
Yeah, he might be showing up to the prom as an offensive coordinator. I think that he really might have to take that quick step back. He might be one of those guys just because of timing. And I think the perceived lack of leadership from him. He's a softer spoken guy. That does not mean that he can't go into a locker room of 53 guys on a roster and lead them. But I think that's that public perception of him right now. You see the capris on the sideline, and he's got a softer person. So I think some people go, well, he's not a leader. listen, you don't get a head coaching job in the NFL if you're not a leader. The guy's clearly a leader.
Right.
I just think that, sometimes perception it plays such a big part in what happens in reality, right? And just like I said, the timing of it is unfortunate for him. I mean, he may be stuck. He may have to take a step back as an offensive coordinator somewhere for a year or two. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him be a head coach again. I mean, he had the Dolphins that I thought moving in the right direction at one point. And then, it's the same thing with the Dolphins. You got Tagovailoa, the concussions, things happen. All of a sudden the roster falls apart. And then he was stuck in a bad situation. But like you said, Eli, I mean, the Dolphins responded so well down the stretch for him. I thought they did enough to help him keep his job there. But ultimately, we heard the rumors about maybe a team that still had a coach, might have been contacting the Ravens about Harbaugh, and then it McDaniel gets fired. So was that the Dolphins? We don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. My wheels were definitely turning when I read that yesterday, or earlier this week. And it's interesting, Chad. I just feel for Mike McDaniel, like you said, I do feel for him because he turned everything around, made the hard decision to bench Tua. I'd imagine that was a tough decision. A lot of people on the outside looking in, it's, hey, you're just benching him. He's not playing well enough. But this is the guy that Mike McDaniel walked in. This was his guy. He's had him his entire stretch. They made the playoffs together, and I just can't help but think, how different this would be if Tua didn't have those completely, not just career-altering, but life-altering concussions.
Yeah.
If Tyreek Hill is able to stay a little bit more healthy throughout his tenure there, he had some, injuries throughout the tenure.
Yep.
It makes me think, but it's also like, what does this mean for the Dolphins too, right? Because obviously McDaniel out, but I start thinking quarterback-wise for him. Okay, Tua Tagovailoa and Quinn Ewers. That's like really what you're walking into next year.
Yeah.
Aside from drafting somebody.
It's not a great situation. I mean,
yeah. I don't know. I love, as a Cleveland Browns fan, maybe I'm a little biased. I love our quarterback situation a lot better than that, though.
For once, yeah. I mean, you can look at the roster and you can see. I know the numbers weren't there with Shedeur Sanders. I know people want to jump on that, and a lot of people are very, very. It's ironic though. That people are so stat driven and so apparently analytical driven when, a lot of fans ran Paul DePodesta out of here for that very reason. But now we want to turn the numbers back on Shedeur Sanders and say, well, look, the numbers aren't there. But if you knew, I mean, just the numbers behind that for him, his clean pocket rate compared to the rest of the NFL, his time to throw, time before he was under duress compared to the rest of the NFL. A lot of that stuff adds up directly with poor QBR and throwing interceptions and not performing well as a quarterback. There were times, when he had time to actually sit in the pocket and go through his progressions, I thought he made some nice throws. There were some times where he flashed, and he's going to make rookie mistakes. He's a rookie. I mean, that happens. We're expecting first round, production out of a fifth round pick. And then we're nailing him for it when he doesn't do that. I think it's a weird standard to hold him to. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that this offseason is going to be. I just feel like it's going to be. I keep saying it, and I know some people on the network. One, Rob Ruzicki, told me that every Browns offseason seems to be the biggest one, but I truly feel like this one is pretty important, Chad. And I mean, 2 first-round draft picks. You kept Andrew Berry. If you're the Browns, you kept Andrew Berry. You got rid of Stefanski, which is besides Paul. There's 2 other coaches in Cleveland Browns history that have more wins than Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
He is the most winning modern coach for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
So this is a big thing. I know it's like you look at the last 2 seasons, you're like, we're getting rid of the downward trend. I get it. But if Stefanski goes to New York or Miami or wherever and starts winning and we mess this up, it's going to be a long next few years. And obviously we still are recovering, image-wise from the Deshaun Watson trade.
Yes.
So can we please just get something right?
Please, one thing right. Even if it's just a kicker. I mean, Jimmy Haslam spent so much time in that press conference talking about a kicker and a cornerback with a bad shoulder. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really sure where we are. I know that when your owner comes out and specifically nails down 3 positions, and it's a cornerback, a kicker, and a linebacker, you're just not in a great place as a franchise. I don't know. It felt weird. You kept talking about good people, and here we are, like you said, with Deshaun Watson on the roster, and the whole thing felt very disingenuous to me. more and more over the last 4 or 5 years, every time Jimmy Haslam speaks, there's like this disconnect for me. And I don't know. Listen, I'm not a billionaire. I probably, in a human sense, I probably don't really have much to relate to the guy. I probably couldn't even relate to him one-on-one in a conversation. But there's also, he just doesn't relate to the media very well. And I likened it to on Monday. It's like a rich guy, right? He's a billionaire, and he's got this hobby, right? It's like, to me, if I bought a really expensive drone, okay, it would be wasted in my hands. It'd be fun to look at, but the first time I put it up in the air, it would never come down right. I'd have to try to fix it. I wouldn't know what I was doing. I'd be on YouTube because I'm stubborn. And this is Jimmy Haslam, right? He's trying to fix the Browns, but he doesn't know what he's doing. So he's tinkering. He keeps breaking things. And pretty soon, before you've got everything apart, you can't put it back together, but you're in the middle of it and you've got to do something, right? So eventually you've got to bring a drone guy in, right?
Yeah.
So he's got to bring a football guy in. You've got to bring football guys in to do the football things. And the billionaire has to do the money things, and you've got to keep it separate or it's not going to work.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I will give, and it's tough, but give Jimmy Haslam credit. He is not afraid to spend the money. He is certainly not afraid to spend the money. Yeah. Now, the problem is if we could just spend that money a little bit wiser. And and I get the good people, good player conversation, Chad. Mm-hmm. And I'm all about bringing in good people to the organization.
Sure.
That doesn't mean we have to have somebody that doesn't necessarily go out and mingle with the community. If he just goes home and keeps to himself, we don't necessarily need everybody to be, community, building the community and doing these types of things. It's great, and I love it, but we don't need everybody to be like that. However, when there are giant red flags, when Deshaun Watson walks into your organization waving a giant red flag bigger than the headquarters in Berea, then we got a problem. And that's what it is. It's not like, Jimmy, we're all about you bringing in good people, but just as long as they play well and stay out of trouble, that's fine. That's all we need. We don't need them to win Walter Payton Man of the Year every year. It'd be nice.
Yeah, at some point you need football players, right? And the analytics, that wasn't cutting it. I mean, we did it the DePodesta way for a long, long time. And I think something that the DePodesta way, and I don't really even know what that is because no one really knows truly what he did.
Yeah.
But I assume there was some part of his job that was roster management or talent analysis or whatever, comparing possible draft. I'm sure they gave him a lot of player A, player B, player C type of things, right?
Right.
But the one thing you can't really measure when you look at analytics and 40 times and vertical leaps and, reps on the bench is heart, right? I think you have to sometimes you have to be close to these guys. You have to see them play. You have to kind of have a little bit of a personal connection. You got to go to the whatever, the North-South game or the Senior Bowl, whatever, and coach these guys and get to know them and look in their eyes and see how they respond to certain whatever. It doesn't. You're not going to get an extensive time coaching them, but I mean, you can see how they respond one-on-one. And I think sometimes that's the most important thing. I'm not saying that guys in the NFL come in and they don't know what they're doing and they need intensive coaching, but there are points where, even getting paid, $20, $30 million a year or whatever as a quarterback, 40 million, 50 million. There are times when you're going to have to, you've got to listen to your coach, right? You've got to, you have to be able to be that person. I think Shedeur Sanders is that guy. I just don't know. I don't know. Are the elite quarterback skills there? I think he's got the heart part wrapped up. He's not going to fold or back down from anything, right?
Right.
Was that a DePodesta pick or was that a Jimmy Haslam pick? Was that a Kevin? We don't know. We'll never know.
So here's my, Chad, and I know this is our first time getting to have a conversation really about Shedeur, here on the network. And I'm probably one of the biggest fans of Shedeur on the network, I'd imagine. I truly believe it's tough to grade somebody. It's tough to grade a good steak if you don't give somebody the seasoning in the pan to actually cook the steak in, and they got to just throw it on the fire. It's tough, right? So without a wide receiver one, Jerry Jeudy seems like he may be a wide receiver two now at this point, which is that's better than when we started. But him, and then besides Fannin, who went down out of the last game of the year, we didn't have Shedeur didn't have him. Still gets a W. And then no Judkins, obviously, with the injury at the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's really tough for me to sit here and say, Shedeur did well statistically, he did poor. I guess the biggest thing, like you said, is his heart. Is he answering the questions correctly in the press conferences? Is he leading to W's? And all three of those things check out.
Yeah.
I know I get a 3-4. It's not a winning record, but a
Mhm.
lot of those games are one possession. Buffalo. A lot of people here in Cleveland, fan wise, the pulse was we're getting smoked by 10 or more. We had the Browns had a chance to go win that football game, and nobody thought that heading into that Sunday.
Right.
And that's what you got to look at, I think, Chad. If you're the Cleveland Browns, you got to look at it. There's some college football playoff games going on, obviously, as we speak right now. Ole Miss
Yep.
and oh my goodness, the U. I shouldn't
Hey,
be doing that in Ohio. I should be careful.
hey, it
Should
is
be
what it
careful
is.
here.
That's
But
all right.
but the U and Ole Miss play it obviously, and then so you got tomorrow Indiana and Oregon. You have Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza,
Yeah.
who all respect to Ty Simpson, but if those two both declare, and Mendoza's going to have to declare, but Moore if he declares,
Yep.
I mean those are the first two guys off the board, I'd
For sure.
imagine.
Yeah, they're quarterbacks 1 and 2. Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're the Browns, you're sitting there at number 6 overall. You're not really in a position to
No.
to get your quarterback unless you're absolutely in love with Ty Simpson or a guy like if Lenore Sellers out of South Carolina were to come out in this draft.
Yeah.
But you have to, like, if you're the Browns, Chad, you got to sit there, I think, and ask. Even Dante Moore, is it worth taking that first round draft pick to develop him? Or would it make more sense to just see where the progression of Shedeur Sanders goes with a Jordan Tyson or a Carnell Tate to help out a receiver and bolster that offensive line? Which, by the way, isn't really going. We were looking at mock drafts on Main Event last Sunday, and it's early. So we'll see what changes with the combine and everything. But right now, it looks like early teens is where top linemen are going. So if
Yeah.
you're the Browns, you can take that other first round draft pick wherever it may land with Jacksonville and
Yep.
move yourself back in position to get your lineman.
Yeah. Listen, you mentioned earlier that this offseason is a big one for the Browns. I don't think this is it's big in the sense that they need to lay some type of foundation. It's not big in the sense that they're going to go from 5-12 to 12-5. I don't see that kind of a jump coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
It'd be great. But more realistically, we're looking at a 7-10, 8-9 type of a season.
Yep.
If they can lay the right foundation, and I think that means you got to get your line. And listen, this draft is really thin in offensive linemen. There aren't a ton of guys that are like top 5 or 10 guys, like you said, that are really thought of as game changers on the offensive line. So I think what you can do is if you want to use that first pick on a wide receiver, you need a weapon. You have to have a weapon regardless of who's going to be here, if they're going to be here this year, if you're talking about Arch Manning next year, whatever it is, wherever you lie, whatever camp you're in or whatever they say, or if you want to build with Shedeur Sanders, listen, there's nothing wrong with giving Shedeur Sanders, if he's just a stopgap, some weapons, right? And starting to lay that foundation of putting a better offensive line out there. We've got DeJuan Jones. He was injured early enough. He should come back, and we should have some type of an idea of where he is physically, and if he's going to be a walking penalty machine, or if he's going to get hurt again, if he's going to stay healthy. I mean, he was really, really good for the Browns when he was healthy a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah,
a big surprise, in more ways than one. Big, large man, big surprise.
Right.
But yeah, if they can get someone like that to help anchor one side of that line, they're better off. I've heard some jokes about people, saying they're going to bring Jed Wills back. I almost wouldn't mind if you moved him to the interior. Listen, he can block. He understands. He just wasn't a left tackle. We tried to force him into that position. It didn't work for him. He wasn't Joe Thomas. I don't know. I just think that, I don't know. I mean, I don't, it's hard to say. I think you just kind of lay the foundation with offensive linemen with that late first round pick, whether you trade back up to get one or whether listen, I know nobody wants to hear this, but if you trade back and get a couple offensive linemen in the second round, as long as you do the analysis right and the scouting and development is there, you can get starters in the NFL all the way up to the end of the third round. I mean, you can make a difference on that offensive line without going out and getting 5 all pros. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just have to have 5 guys that work together cohesively up front, and you'll have something much better than what you had this year, which I think was the 30th rated offensive line in the NFL.
It was bad. It was real bad.
Yeah, it's not good.
And that's the biggest concern for me. I mean, obviously receiver too, but you can't really do much if you're not standing up straight as the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't care who's running what route. If you can't stand in the pocket for 2 seconds, what can you do?
Yeah, and the big thing, that I think another thing to talk about. We could talk This will not be the last time me and you are sitting here talking about the Browns here on this Inside Edge Network. And thanks for everybody that's been stopping in. I know it's a busy college football playoff Thursday, so everybody's tuned in as Ole Miss right now up 7-3 early in the second quarter. So we'll see that. But thanks for tuning in here with me and Chad. Like I said, Chad, we'll talk about a lot of Brown stuff. I will say, too, the big thing, running back. I know we have Quinshon Judkins. Got to see how he comes back after an injury like that. Dislocated ankle, broken fibula. I mean, that's a tough injury. It made me hurt just even saying that right now.
Yep.
And, then you have Dylan Sampson. You've kind of, if you're the Browns, you've tried to give him a little bit more of the leeway, the carries, and it's really left more, a lot to be desired, right? And that's right. Is he a great depth guy? Maybe, sure. Him and Sanders, this could be great depth guys, but the Browns were so successful when they had two workhorses. They had Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And I'm not saying we have to replicate it or Quinshon Judkins is either one of those guys.
Yeah.
But you need somebody to mix it up so that if this happens again, and I'm knocking on wood, I'm right here at the table, but if it happens again, you have another stud. So we'll see, Chad. We'll see. We could talk a ton about the Cleveland Browns. They always find a way to make our way into the conversation. But we did go over a bunch of NFL head coaching changes, or two big ones, not a bunch, but big enough where it felt like quite a lot of news. John Harbaugh out in Baltimore. Miami gets rid of Mike McDaniel. 18 seasons for Harbaugh in Baltimore. In a Super Bowl, Mike McDaniel, some playoff success, but 4 seasons now out with the team. And that's very interesting. We're going to do this. We're going to take a quick reset. I'm going to get a little bit more water. Get ready for this second half of this hour, this power hour here of Thursday Topics. Thanks for tuning in for the first episode. When we come back, me and Chad are going to talk about Trae Young. Little interesting. If you're not getting into the NBA spirit yet, this might get you ready to go because you'll never guess where Trae Young landed. It's not Los Angeles. It's not Boston. And nope, it's not even New York. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll talk about this game going on a little bit now. Who would you rather face if you're Oregon or Indiana? If you come out of that game, who would you rather see, the U or Ole Miss? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Oregon, Indiana. We'll talk about the exciting weekend coming up with the NFL. We got a ton of games, Chad, and I'm excited. So with that being said, that's Chad Bryan. That way, I'm Eli Moon, and this is the Inside Edge Network. We'll be right back after a quick break. And welcome back, everybody. As you guys can probably tell, I'm Eli Moon. I'm usually not in the driver's seat too much, but I'm taking the wheel here. Chad Bryan, to my right, your left, of Illegal Formation and the NFL Inside Edge NFL preview show. So, with that being said, we talked quite a bit here. We're right back with you. Apologies if you didn't hear any tunes. I think StreamYard might be coming down with a little bit of a cold as well. So, with that
I've been
being
too close to my mic. It's me. I got to say.
Chad. Oh no. Well, thank goodness we're doing this remote. No. With that being said, we talked a lot of NFL in the first 30 minutes. Talked about John Harbaugh, Mike McDaniel, and of course the Cleveland Browns found their way into the discussion. So with that, we're gonna pivot here to a big story coming out of the NBA. Usually around this time, Chad, we kind of keep an eye out for next month. It's the All-Star break coming up. It's the trade deadline. But really, some shocking news. If I were to tell you Trae Young got traded, you probably think Los Angeles or Boston, maybe New York, right? Well, get a load of this. Trae Young traded the Wizards, the Washington Wizards, yesterday.
Listen, NBA trades have the tendency to perplex me anyway sometimes. I'm like, wait, who got moved for who and for what? And you have to match the money, and you got to it's weird. Players, you got to switch your favorite meal. You can't, it's weird. It's like there's all kinds of weird rules. That's probably not one. But yeah, the NBA trades are weird for me anyway. But I was like the Wizards. I thought they must have gone against his wishes, right? Well, apparently he handpicked Washington. Eli, I don't know.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, Chad, I don't know, and I had to go back and double check the Wizards roster, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's got to be somebody you want there, right? Alexander Sarr, number 2 overall pick a few years ago. All right. I mean, got some young talent. Okay. I mean, okay, Jordan Poole, I don't think he's not there anymore. Like, it's like, okay, like, I can understand if Jordan Poole is still there. Like, they're just about to chuck threes up the entire game, and that's it.
Yeah.
But, I saw something, just funny social media post saying, well, Trae Young must have went to Washington knowing he can score 50 every night. Like, he's going to win the scoring title.
Yeah. I thought about that because I'm like, well, listen, is he trying to get back to 25-11, Trae Young? Because if he goes to Washington, he can probably 30-5, Trae Young. I mean, there's no, I don't know.
Yeah, it's rough, and it's like in dimension. You mentioned the return, CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert going over to Atlanta. It's this whole second apron thing. I hate it. I hate the second apron. I hate that the NBA has decided to make it more difficult to trade. I miss the days of being able to send 4 or 5 first-round draft picks. Half of your, you have these draft picks that aren't in America yet, that haven't come up from overseas. You can send those in and a few guys, and you can walk away with a Donovan Mitchell or somebody like that. Nowadays, too much math, Chad. Too much math. Too much trying to figure it out. And, like, on paper, this doesn't make sense. Like, CJ McCollum, love him. Ohio guy, at the end of the day. But it does, in no world does this make sense, to me at least. Trae Young,
Yeah. Listen, I get the Hawks. They free up about $30 million or whatever in cap space. I think that there have been some rumors about Atlanta going out to get Anthony Davis. I'm not sure how reliable that is or how reliable he is for that matter.
Yeah.
Just health-wise. But I don't know. I mean, I guess you could do that now, but you're back to not really having a point guard or a distributor there or someone that can score at that rate at that position. I don't know. It's weird. And what are the Wizards going to do with this? He's got like a $49 million player option next year. I mean, what happens there? I mean, do the Wizards just essentially? What if he just walks away? Will he walk away, or I mean, is that why he picked Washington? Does he want to stay there long term? Does he want to? I don't know. I mean, I would guess he takes the player option because at this point, we're probably not going to get $49 million, right?
Right.
Just exercising that option and then seeing where he is after next season. But yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to figure out what to make of this trade, and I really don't. I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, it's really thrown me for a loop because does Trae Young, is this just like his audition, like to go test free agency next year? Like you said, it's because here's the thing: nobody's coming to Washington, and I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but I mean Kevin Durant wouldn't even go play with the Wizards,
right?
And if Kevin Durant won't go play with Washington. And he's been tied to it as Washington his whole career. If he became a free agent, if it opened up, he'd go play for the Wizards, and even he won't play for the Wizards. So, free agents are coming there, as you've shown through the draft. you really haven't had a successful back-to-back draft since John Wall and Bradley Beal. And I think there may have been a year separating those two guys. But still, it's like at the end of the day, the Wizards, you don't that it just blows my mind, Chad, because you don't hear the Wizards and think of NBA. You just hear the Wizards and you're like, NBA draft in the summer.
Right. And it's weird. And listen, I mean, when you go back to Trae Young, I mean, this is a guy who hasn't really moved much in his life. Went to Norman North High School, right? And then where did he go to college? Went to Oklahoma, right there in Norman. And then he's drafted by the Hawks and he's been there his whole career. I mean, it's not like he's a guy who jumps around. Just Washington was such a weird. I mean, I get it if he was like one of those journeyman guys, and it's like some guy. I swear, like LeBron just wants to play in all the fun NBA cities before he's done, right? Not really. He's going to retire this year, but it kind of seemed like he was going on a barnstorming tour for a while there. But yeah, I mean, that's not Trae Young. I mean, he's been basically in one location for high school and college, and then one location in the NBA, and it feels weird. Everything about this feels really weird, except for the Hawks saving that cap space. That's about it.
Yeah, and like all three of those guys, like obviously out yesterday, right? Corey Kispert was warming up, and then they scratched him due to injury management. And apparently the injury was that he had to go play in Washington. So
it could be an injury, depending on how you look at it.
So, but just I mean, first off, yeah, like I said, trade blows my mind in terms of like what was given up to get who, and and then just where Trae Young went to, but this is the first real big trade of the NBA season. Like
it's a blockbuster by definition, yeah.
So I mean, it just makes me worried though, because if you're the Cavaliers and you're seeing the start, and I know they're getting some momentum here, they're playing a lot better as the last 10 games than they were the first 10 games of the year.
Yeah.
But it's worrisome if you do have to go switch things up, whether it's this year or in the off season. This second apron is going to be a real pain.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly makes it harder to trade. And a lot of times in the NBA, I feel like when you see a trade, it's somebody taking on somebody else's problem to give them their problem. It's just sometimes it's not even, it's just about, I mean, it's about salary dump, right? I mean, that's all these trades can be about sometimes. And this one feels like that. I just don't know what the future of Washington and Trae Young and free agency and the play. I don't know what that looks like. That's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird. Now I'll go over something that's a little weird. We're going to pivot out to the last 15 minutes or so and talk about what's a hot topic here, which is football. And Chad, obviously, as the guy who is one of the hosts of the NFL preview show, we're going to talk some NFL. But before we do, I just had to pose a question here. 4 teams left in the college football playoffs. Who's left standing as the college football playoff national champion?
Oh, man, national champion. It's really hard to pick against Indiana. I saw Miami up close. I mean, not up close. I wasn't at the game, but I watched that Ohio State-Miami game, and, man, Miami's defensive line is I think you said it was 7-3 now. I don't have the score in front of me on that game now, the Ole Miss-Miami game.
7-3 still here, a little bit over 7 minutes left. Miami in the red zone, though, actually like closer to goal line.
Okay, well, so listen, Miami's offense clearly isn't going to overwhelm you with anything. They're not super explosive. They don't have a ton of firepower. Carson Beck is what he is. He's a veteran quarterback. He's got a pretty good record against ranked teams. So I don't, he did look like he had the yips early on against Ohio State. But I'll tell you what helps as a quarterback is seeing a pick six go to the house, and then you're like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, this is a different game now. You can play a little more loosely, and I think that changed everything, honestly. Mm-hmm. And you can blame who you want for that, but I mean, it happens. I mean, it's football; those things happen.
Right.
Who's left standing? I really want to. I think Oregon gets the better of Indiana this time, and I think Oregon finally wins their first national title. I think you've got an Ole Miss team that's a little bit. They're just a little distracted with the whole Lane Kiffin situation, and they might be losing current coaches that are getting plucked off of their staff. It's a weird situation down there. Listen, if these kids hold on and win a national championship, first of all, that's irritating because Lane Kiffin gets a huge bonus. And I feel like that's wrong. I think the staffers who stuck this out should get that bonus and get to split it, but whatever. He's getting plenty of money to go to Baton Rouge. That's beside the point. We're going to see a lot about their resolve, I guess, is what I was trying to say. If they win a national title, man, college kids to be able to fight. And people think sometimes, I think they're just machines. They don't remember that they're human beings, right? This is a lot to go through. You've had this guy, he's been your head coach, and all of a sudden he's gone. And now like, you're losing coaches during the week to LSU. Like, what's happening down there? It's weird. So
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's a little bit of a distraction. I even feel like Miami's probably going to come back and win this game tonight. And then you might have a Miami-Oregon matchup, and I like Oregon. And I love Dan Lanning. Listen, Mario Cristobal's done a great job at Miami. There's no doubt. But I really like Dan Lanning. I like the pedigree. I like the track record. I even loved how they beat the Buckeyes last year. I hated that game. I didn't want to see the Buckeyes lose, but man, to go into the annals of like the loopholes of all loophole, right? Like just like finding that little 12-man thing and the clocks. I mean, that was brilliant from Dan Lanning. You got to hand it to him. They changed the rule. It was so brilliant. So
Yeah.
I like Dan Lanning. He clearly has a firm grasp on clock management, on how to manage a game. He's got a top 2 NFL draft, quarterback type of guy there. I like Dan Lanning. I like the Oregon Ducks.
All right. I respect it. And that's like where I'm tending to lean towards who's going to be the national champion, who comes out of that Oregon Indiana game. And all respect to the Ole Miss U game going on, that that'll be what I watch before I go to bed here this evening. And a lot of people across the country. It's going to be a good finish. It seems like the way it's gearing up, but it's just something about Kursignetti in Indiana.
I get it.
The Hoosiers. They're gonna make a second Hoosiers. I mean, another like Hoosiers, series, but it's gonna be about the football team.
Yes.
And I mean, it's incredible. Kursignetti, I mean, obviously, chip on his shoulder, just doing his thing. I mean, Indiana undefeated, beating Ohio State, obviously a sore spot here in Columbus, but 13-10, very, very good win in the Big Ten championship. I mean, really just took care of Alabama. And that was the big talk was, can Ty Simpson, Ryan Williams, these guys on offense hit the big play? If they hit the big play, Indiana might be in for a long day. And they didn't.
No.
Fernando Mendoza. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to, excite you when you look at his stat line.
He's Craig Mental, man, but he's just got better tools. Like he's just the guy that gets it done.
And I'll be honest, I think Mendoza is just so like he's very smart in terms of like field general wise. Like I said, it's not going to be 300, 350 passing yards. Though I do think he's going to have to air the ball out a lot more tomorrow to win this game against Oregon. But it's not necessarily pretty. It's not going to excite you, but they're wins. And that's ultimately what is coming down for Indiana is W's. And they're undefeated. They go into a rematch. One of the best games of the college football season was Oregon and Indiana earlier this year. So I'm super, super excited to see that. Kind of delayed here for a moment. You brought up a ton of good points about Oregon. I know Jordan Davison, the running back, is more than likely going to be missing the rest of the college football playoffs. Is with the reports coming out here. So with that, I lean towards Indiana. I can't. It's bad to pick a team that against the two teams that are playing right now, Ole Miss and UC. I'm not going to necessarily pick a winner there, but I just think ultimately whoever comes out of that game just has a lot of emotion. Where Indiana, they are cold-blooded killers right now, Chad, on that football field. They are there, to take care of it.
I watched them dismantle Alabama, and the way their offensive line moves. I mean, they pull guys. They don't miss blocks. They don't miss zone blocking assignments. They don't miss on man-to-man assignment. Their offensive line is they are surgeons. They're like assassins. It's unbelievable. They create so much room and so much havoc and get so much push off the ball that, I mean, it's no wonder Indiana's offense is successful as it has to be. They don't do a ton. They're not super explosive, but they've got plenty of room to operate. And that makes a guy like Mendoza really dangerous. It's fun to watch. It's cool, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think that's ultimately what it's gonna come down to is the mindset. You brought up with Ole Miss, the Lane Kiffin saga that just won't end. Who will he take next from the Ole Miss coaching staff? Who leaves Ole Miss to go to LSU? I mean, it's just. And I was sitting here on Main Event giving Lane Kiffin a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, saying, look, it could have been anybody, really. It just happened to be Lane Kiffin. It's just the way the college football season is. But now it's starting to get muddy because you took them away. Now you allowing the coaches to go back. Now you're seeing they're starting to get hot, and they're the last four teams, and now you're scared of what conversation there is if Ole Miss wins this thing. And then if there's a bad start in Baton Rouge this fall, could be really bad. So, but I do think that is affecting Ole Miss, Chad. And then the other thing too is Trinidad Chambliss, their starting quarterback, has applied for two waiver of eligibility to get a sixth year in
Yeah.
college football. He's been denied both times. They're trying for a third time. He's already signed a new NIL deal with Ole Miss to go back to Ole Miss over LSU. So he's in the full anticipation that he's coming back to school next year.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's got to be a question too. Is like there's too much surrounding Ole Miss right now, and if they
So
are
much.
able, and if they are able to keep their heads on straight and win this thing, probably one of the most impressive national championships in the last 5-10 years, I'd say. I mean, so and then you look at the U. Carson Beck, incredible story. Actually, ESPN, we were watching the pregame here, me and Pops, and they had a great story on Carson Beck. The recovery of the entire elbow with the UCL, and
Yep.
I mean, the fact that he went out and did it again. What a comeback story. I mean, and so part of me is like, man, I Carson Beck, but you beat Ohio State, so I can't. My little brother goes to Ohio State, Chad. Look, and I can't root for the U now. It's like, but that's a cool story. But like eventually, sometimes with those types of stories, once the emotion wears off, it's X's and O's.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's going to come down to Indiana versus either one of these emotionally charged teams.
Yep. As a fan, I try to keep the emotion out of it. I've always been a guy who, listen, I'm a Braves fan. I grew up a Braves fan. I was kind of in between, Reds and well, they were the Indians. Now they're Guardians.
Right.
I was kind of in between, those two worlds. Excuse me. And so I grew up a Braves fan. They were on TBS 150 times a year. And they were awful when I was first time. I'm 46 years old. I started watching the Braves in the late 80s, and they were terrible. But man, just like the announcers were fun. Skip Carey and Joe Simpson, and those guys were fun to listen to, and whatever. So it was fun as a kid, and then they got really good. But the one thing they didn't do was win a ton of World Series, right? They won in 1995. I'm sorry, Cleveland fans, you know that. But I got used to a lot of playoff losses, and I just got to the point where as a kid I was like, okay, now you know what you do? You root for the team that beat you, so that when they win the World Series, you can say, hey, at least we got beat by the world champs. There's no shame in that. So I think that's where I am with Miami a little bit. I'm torn. I want all three of these schools, except for, well, I don't even really have a problem with India. I guess I want all four schools to win the title for a different reason. I think it's just a fun story for all four schools. I don't know. It's probably the most fun I've ever had watching after the Buckeyes have been eliminated. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of good stories.
Absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, they were going over the Saban, the tree, the coaching tree. All these guys are Saban disciples. It was interesting too. None of them overlapped. Right? We were, looking before the game, just checking it out, and none of them overlapped. Actually, I take it back. The only one that did overlap, the only way it would work out is if the U and Mario Cristobal went and played Dan Lanning in Oregon. There was a 2015 year where Dan Lanning was a graduate assistant.
Okay.
And Mario Cristobal is the assistant head coach and also the offensive line coach.
There you go.
So we could have a meeting of the Saban universe.
Some familiarity there, right? Why not?
So we'll see. A lot of good stuff there. Of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention. So Thursday, tonight, obviously, while you're watching here with us, again, Chad, Bryan, Eli Moon, Inside Edge Network. Make sure you follow us on the socials at InsideEdgeNet, and then you see our respective socials as well. But we have college football tonight, Ole Miss, Miami going on right now. About to head to halftime here, not too long after we get off the air. You have Oregon, Indiana tomorrow night, Chad, and then America's sweetheart, the NFL. And I got to ask you one more question before we get out of here.
Let's do it.
What 3 NFL playoff games are you most excited about this weekend?
Oh, well, okay, so I'm old. All right, I'm 46. So Packers Bears, that intrigues me because that's an old school matchup, right? That's a fun Soldier Field, not the old, so it's not the real Soldier Field. It's still Soldier Field though. So that's gonna be a fun one to watch in Chicago, Green Bay and Chicago. I'm looking forward to that. I guess I would really like to see the Patriots take out the Chargers. I really want to see that. I'm not a Jim Harbaugh guy. Sorry. I get it. He's an NFL. He's a savant. He walks into the NFL and just starts winning. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know how much is the whole thing that happened in Michigan. Like, is it on the up and up? Probably in the NFL, but we'll see. And then I guess my third game is I'm interested to see what happens. That Eagles-Niners game is another kind of classic matchup for me. It's like, Terrell Owens when I was a kid, watching Joe Montana, Steve Young in the playoffs, like that era of like where it got handed, like the torch got handed from one to the other. There were some Eagles-Niners matchups there. I guess I'm kind of intrigued for that one too. What about you?
You know what? I can't lie. I'm super excited about Packers and Bears. I'm going to agree with you first off on that one. we talked about it on, me, Rob, and Double A on Main Event. We've talked, I'm sure you guys have talked about it at great lengths, obviously, on illegal formation. Just the Bears-Packers. Are the Bears for real? Are the Packers for real? They split the series. Obviously, no Jordan Love really during that second matchup, Malik Willis for the Packers. But just an interesting situation if you're the Bears. I said this about 2-3 weeks ago. I said, this is a very, very important offseason coming up for the Packers, regardless of what happens, unless they win the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl cures everything. But if the Packers lose this game, it's going to be an interesting offseason. Jordan Love questions, things like that. But if you're the Chicago Bears, this is a demoralizing, franchise-breaking loss. And I know it sounds so crazy to say it like that, but Chad, the last time the Bears were in a top-seeded position, Mitch Trubisky, Matt Nagy, double doink. It's been years to get back to this spot.
Not the double doink, man.
The double doink. Who was it? Cody Parkey?
Yeah.
And I mean, so, but to be back, it's taken so long to get back to this spot. And a loss, not only in the first round, you're at home to your division arch rival.
Yep.
And there's no Aaron Rodgers. There's no Brett Favre. There shouldn't be. There's no to the big, scary guys out there in Green Bay you shouldn't be afraid of.
There's not even a Micah Parsons. I mean, everything. Yeah. I mean, you're just, you've got nothing. But listen, so in the offseason, or the preseason, I should say, we did a show right here on the Inside Edge Network. We picked our Super Bowl matchup, and my Super Bowl matchup was Packers-Bills. I'm still alive, right? I got at least those. I'm hanging by a thread. I'm hanging by a thread because I really feel like the Bears are probably going to beat the Packers this weekend. And listen, Jacksonville could sneak up on Buffalo, no problem. Jacksonville has surprised me. They've shocked me. They've angered me a little bit with that draft pick. That's another game I should have mentioned too. I don't know. I mean, I want to see my two picks move on, but I really think the Bears are going to win this Packers-Bears matchup.
Yeah. Packers-Bears going to be an interesting one. Another one I'm super excited about. Not because I think it's going to be a great game, okay? Mm-hmm. But solely just to see how for real Houston is. I want to see Houston and Pittsburgh on Monday night. I'm excited to see that. I want to see is C.J. Stroud going to take command of these NFL playoffs. We saw just a glimpse of it against the Cleveland Browns a few seasons ago. Now it's like, are we going to have this C.J. Stroud moment? Moment, this run. And it feels like the Houston Texans team has got hot at the exact right time. Everybody was writing them off, myself included, earlier in the year. And C.J. Stroud figured it out. Has it been pretty all the time? No, but it's been W's. That defense, like you said earlier, Chad, just tenacious, very, very tough. And, I mean, Will Anderson and those guys just are monsters. And that's what I'm excited to see. Is Houston going to make a statement on Monday Night Football? Are they going to let the rest of the AFC know that, hey, we're just as much of a player? So I'm excited about that.
They've got the platform.
Exactly. And the other thing I'm excited, my last game I'm super, super excited about. And you know what? I gotta go to Saturday here, okay?
Okay.
Because a lot of people are sleeping on the Carolina Panthers, Chad.
Yeah.
A lot of people are sleeping on the Carolina Panthers. Let's not forget they beat the Los Angeles Rams by 3 earlier this year.
Yeah.
I know that was about half a season ago.
Yeah.
A lot of things have changed. The Carolina Panthers, if they had it their way, would be sitting on the couch just like us this weekend because they didn't win and get in. Atlanta won and they got in.
Yeah, they backed in, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But just something about, we were looking on Sunday, just to go back for a moment to Main Event, we were looking on the spreads, right? And just want to take a moment here to, if you are going to bet, that is completely your decision. Inside Edge Network, we do not have any say on that. Okay. With that being said, the spread was 10 for Carolina, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I think that's disrespectful to Carolina. I think it is. And and Rob had brought up Rob Rizicki brought up some good points. They're a losing record team going into the playoffs. They're not as impressive as the Rams. The Rams they were the 1 seed at one point, most of the year actually, and they're still a Super Bowl favorite. But something about this game, it's in Carolina.
Yeah.
First Carolina home playoff game in quite some time since the Cam Newton years. I mean, my goodness. And I just think there's going to be something in that air. Do I think they get it done? Maybe not, Chad. But I don't think it's going to be a 10-point game. I think the Rams fans out in Los Angeles are going to be biting down their fingernails as they watch a close one. So I think the weekend's going to start off with a really good game.
Well, let me ask you this before we move on. You brought up this game. It's in Carolina. Do you think that there's any way in the world, Eli, where we should live in an NFL where you have an 8-9 team hosting a playoff game against a 12-5 team? I get it. They won the division. I get it.
Yeah, I mean,
What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean that's a whole different discussion, Chad, because unfortunately that has been the NFC South way to get into the playoffs for the last however many
It
years.
sure has.
You like you said, you're 46. I'm 28, going 29 this year, and it's been ever since I can remember. That's been the NFC South, albeit a few Tom Brady, Tampa Bay good runs, and New Orleans was hot for a minute with Drew Brees, but yeah, it's usually whoever survives, and
The
it's
NFC
usually
South is like someone's grandparents. They take the wrong exit and take all the wrong turns, and somehow they still end up getting to the place before you do. And it's like, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, and they still, and guess what? In this case, the grandparents still had to call somebody and phone a friend to get to where they're going. They called Atlanta. So,
right.
Crazy.
That's great.
I'm excited, though. I'm excited. Big games, huge weekend for football fanatics. I mean, like I said, right now, they're going to replay here, but almost halftime in this Ole Miss Miami game, it looks like Miami just caught a big touchdown there, Chad. So, going to be an interesting second half there. Oregon, Indiana tomorrow. NFL the rest of the weekend, taking you through Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And also taking you through your weekend will be the Inside Edge Network. We have a lot of great stuff coming up here this weekend. We have Side Hustle Wrestling Podcast, Side Hustle Wrestling Podcast with Double A Anthony Alford and Kyle Cornell. They are going to be tomorrow having a new episode out. Or excuse me. I think they're programming change. So stay tuned with that one. However, Saturday at 5 p.m., Real Talk with Papa Moon. Really excited for our guest on Saturday. Obviously, I produce that show, so I'm just really excited for that show on Saturday, Chad. And then Sunday, of course, you got a big day. You and the fellas, NFL, the Inside Edge NFL preview show, and a postseason preview show in Cleveland.
We might have a little bit of a twist on the Around the NFL segment, so stay tuned for that. That's going to be a fun one. But yeah, looking forward to that show. Looking forward to not having to talk so much Browns right now. We'll talk a little bit of Browns. I know we got to talk some Cleveland Browns, but not as much. So maybe that's good for you. Maybe you just want to get some fresh, real playoff football on your mind and not think about what's going on with the Browns. We'll touch that first, and then we'll go right into the playoff stuff. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And then later on that Sunday, the main event with myself, Rob Rizicki, and Double Anthony Alford will be going over some of those games that have happened, preview some of the games that are to come. And then we'll bring it right back for the beginning of the week, illegal formation, and you guys get the rest. Inside Edge Network is your place to be. I appreciate everybody's patience as I drove the ship here tonight, the launching of Thursday Topics here. We're going to see a lot of the Inside Edge Network talent here, crossover from different shows. So next week you might see, TK and Rob. You might see Autumn and Papa Moon. You never know. So stay locked in here on the Inside Edge Network. Follow us on all the socials across the board, Inside Edge Net. Go give Chad a follow at Real Chad Bryan. I'm at the man they call Moon. And you might see us here on Thursday. If not, we'll be on our regularly scheduled programming. And yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in. For Chad Bryan, I am Eli Moon. This is Thursday Topics, Inside Edge Network. And we'll see you very, very soon.